I don't dream anymore. Not in the way most people do, anyway. There are no fleeting images, no abstract landscapes, no absurd, jumbled nonsense that vanishes upon waking. My dreams are structured. Deliberate. And lately, they have become something worse. Someone is waiting for me in the dark. I don't know when it started, only that it has been getting closer. Every night, a little nearer. It never moves when I look directly at it, but I can feel it shifting in the periphery of my sight. A thing in the shape of a person, standing just beyond the edge of understanding. And now, even when I'm awake, I see it in the corners of my vision. Watching. Waiting. I haven't told anyone yet. But I will. If I live long enough. I first noticed the figure on a Sunday evening. It had been an uneventful day, the kind where time leaks away between errands, chores, and the quiet hum of normalcy. I was in the kitchen, rinsing a plate, when a sharp knock rattled the front door. Not the polite kind, but something too firm, too insistent. The kind that makes your stomach lurch before your brain catches up. I dried my hands, glancing at the hallway. Through the frosted glass panel in the door, I saw only a vague silhouette. Something about it was off. It wasn't just standing there. It was leaning, almost pressing itself against the door. I hesitated, then called out. "Who is it?" No response. Another knock. Louder this time. A slow, creeping unease curled through me. I reached for my phone on the counter. But when I turned back to the door, the silhouette was gone. Not fading footsteps. No retreating shadow. Just, gone. I opened the door. The street was empty. The air was too still. Something had been there. And it had been waiting. The absence of someone at the door should have been a relief. But relief never came. I stood there, staring out at the empty street. The air was thick with the kind of quiet that isn't really quiet, just a heavy, watching stillness. A few houses down, an old porch swing creaked lazily in the wind, though I couldn't feel the breeze. I shut the door, locking it. Then, for good measure, I slid the chain into place. Something had been there. Something had knocked. I just didn't know what. I tried to brush it off. But my body had already decided to be afraid. My skin felt wrong, as if the air itself was pressing too close, wrapping me in something I couldn't shake off. The night passed without another incident. But I dreamt of it anyway. A shadow behind the frosted glass. Leaning. Waiting. And then. The whisper. I woke up gasping, heart hammering against my ribs. I didn't remember the words. Only the feeling of them. Not spoken into my ear, but planted in my thoughts like a buried seed. I turned on the bedside lamp. Light usually chases nightmares away, but this time, the darkness didn't feel like it had fully left. It was still there, somewhere. Lurking. Days passed. I forced myself to believe I had overreacted. Lack of sleep. Stress. The mind playing its tricks. Then I saw him. I was walking home from the store, bags heavy in my hands, when I noticed a man standing on the far side of the street. He wasn't doing anything. Just standing. His clothes were nondescript, dark jeans, a gray coat, but his posture was strange. Head slightly tilted, arms hanging too still at his sides. He wasn't looking at me. Not exactly. But he was aware of me. I swallowed the uneasy knot in my throat and kept walking. My house was only a block away. But as I stepped forward, so did he. Not towards me. Just an inch closer. I quickened my pace. So did he. Step for step. But the way he moved was wrong. Not in a rush. Not like someone hurrying to get somewhere. He moved like a puppet. each step placed with unnatural precision. I reached my driveway. Stopped. He stopped too. The street was empty except for us. I turned to face him fully, gripping my keys between my fingers. A makeshift weapon. He didn't move. For a long moment, we stood there, separated by the street, locked in some silent, uneasy awareness of each other. Then, without a sound, I didn't realize I had been holding my breath until it left me in a shuddering exhale. I went inside. Locked the door. Checked it twice. Something had been watching me. And now it knew where I lived. I stopped sleeping. Or at least, I stopped sleeping well. Every time I closed my eyes, something pressed against the edges of my thoughts. Whispers. Not quite words, but the shape of them. Like a breath against the skin of my mind. One night, as I lay staring at the ceiling, I heard it. My name. Soft. Barely a murmur. But it came from inside the room. My stomach turned to ice. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The darkness around me felt occupied. I wanted to turn on the light, but some deep, primal instinct told me, don't. Light won't help. Because what was in the dark wasn't hiding. It was waiting. I turned over slowly, forcing my breathing to stay even. My phone was on the nightstand. If I could just reach it. Another whisper. Closer this time. Right next to my ear. I bolted upright, fumbling for the lamp switch. Warm, golden light spilled into the room. Empty. But the air still felt heavy. As if something had been there just a moment ago. Watching. Waiting. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The morning after the whisper, I sat at my kitchen table. Staring into a cup of untouched coffee. The house was too quiet. Not peaceful, just off. Like something had been drained from the air, leaving only a hollow version of what it should be. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Not an object. Something less tangible. A presence. A weight in the space around me that should have been there but wasn't. I checked my phone out of habit. No new messages. No missed calls. But something about the screen made my stomach drop. My call log. There was a name I should have seen there. Someone I talked to every day. But their name was gone. My mind reeled, scrambling for logic. Had I deleted it? No, I wouldn't have. I checked my contacts. My fingers trembled as I scrolled. My pulse hammering harder with every name that passed. They weren't there. I checked my photos. No pictures of them. No evidence they had ever existed. But I remembered them. I remembered their voice. The way they laughed at my stupid jokes. The way they always texted me goodnight no matter what. I gripped the edges of the table, my breath coming too fast. This isn't possible. Something had taken them from my life. Not just removed them. Erased them. And worst of all, I was the only one who remembered. I didn't leave the house for 2 days. Every time I reached for my phone, I hesitated. Who would I even call? Who could I trust? By the third day, I was desperate for something normal. I decided to go to the coffee shop down the street, just to be around people, just to prove to myself that the world was still real. The walk felt too long. The streets too empty. It wasn't late. But the air carried a strange, hollow hush, as if the world had been scrubbed clean of background noise. The cafe was nearly empty when I stepped inside. Just the hum of the espresso machine. The soft clatter of a spoon against porcelain. The girl behind the counter greeted me with a tired smile. I ordered my usual. Sat by the window. Sipped my coffee. And then, I felt it. That presence. Like a shadow stretching across my thoughts. I turned my head slowly. A man sat at the table across from me. Mid-30s, dark hair, a sharp, angular face that should have been forgettable. But his eyes. He was already looking at me. Not just looking. Studying. As if he had been watching me for a while. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to hold his gaze. "Do I know you?" A slow, almost mechanical tilt of the head. Then he spoke. "You used to." My stomach turned to ice. My pulse pounded in my ears. "What?" He smiled. Not warmly. Not cruelly. Just, empty. "You don't remember yet. But you will." I pushed back my chair, my legs tensing to stand. But then. He wasn't there anymore. The chair across from me sat empty. No sign that anyone had been there at all. Except his coffee cup. Still half full. Still warm. I barely remember getting home. Something was wrong with reality. The world was fraying at the edges. And I could feel myself slipping through the cracks. I locked the doors. Closed the blinds. Sat in the dim glow of the television, the volume low. Just enough to keep the silence from swallowing me whole. At some point, exhaustion won. My eyes drifted shut. And in the dark, I dreamed. Not like before. This time, I saw them. A crowd of figures standing in the void. Featureless. Silent. Their bodies too still. And one by one, they turned their heads toward me. Their mouths opened. Stretching impossibly wide. And they spoke in unison. "You are forgetting." I woke up gasping, lungs burning for air. My phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. "Don't look at them too long." My hands shook as I typed back. "Me, who is this?" The reply came instantly. "Unknown number. They notice when you remember." The text stayed on my screen. The glow of the phone illuminating my trembling hands. "They notice when you remember." A chill settled into my bones, heavy and unshakable. I didn't reply. What was there to say? Instead, I forced myself to breathe, to think. Maybe this was some kind of elaborate joke. Maybe stress had finally pushed me too far. Maybe I was imagining all of it. But deep down, I knew better. Because when I looked around my living room, something was missing again. I scanned the shelves, the furniture, the walls, desperate to put my finger on it. But the more I searched, the more I realized. I didn't even know what I was looking for. A space where a bookshelf should have been. A missing picture frame. A piece of furniture I had once used every day but now couldn't remember. I was losing pieces of my life, and I had no way of knowing what was gone. That was the worst part. The forgetting. Because how do you fight something when you don't even remember what you've lost? I grabbed my phone again, scrolled through my contacts. My call log was nearly empty. My text history thin. Like I had barely spoken to anyone in weeks. But I had. I knew I had. Names tickled the edges of my mind, but the harder I reached for them, the more they unraveled. Like thread being pulled from a fraying sweater. I squeezed my eyes shut, gripping my temples. Think. Think. And then. A sound. Soft. A whisper. Not from my phone. From inside the house. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The whisper had been so close. Just behind me. I turned my head slowly, scanning the dim room. Nothing. The door was still shut. The windows still locked. But I wasn't alone. I could feel it. That heavy, watching presence. Not just in the room, inside me. settling into my bones, pressing against the edges of my thoughts. I reached for my phone. Hands shaking as I unlocked the screen. Unknown number, they're closer now. I swallowed against the knot of fear clawing up my throat. My fingers hesitated before typing a response. Me, who are they? The reply came instantly. Unknown number, they used to be like you. I stared at the message, my pulse hammering. Like me. I wanted to ask more, to demand answers. But my body was screaming at me that I had bigger problems. Because something shifted in the corner of the room. Not a sound. Not movement. Just a pressure change. Like when someone steps too close to you. I turned my head slowly. And for the briefest, most terrible moment, I saw it. Not fully. Not clearly. Just a shape, tall and wrong. Standing in the shadows just beyond the edge of my vision. And then it was gone. Like it had never been there at all. I didn't sleep that night. I barely moved. I just sat there, phone in hand. Staring into the dark, waiting for something else to happen. The whispers didn't come back. The presence faded. But the wrongness remained. By morning, I had convinced myself that maybe, just maybe, I was breaking down. Sleep deprivation. Anxiety. Hallucinations born from an exhausted mind. So I tried to be normal. I showered. Got dressed. Forced myself to leave the house. The world outside looked the same. People walked their dogs. Cars hummed down the streets. The air smelled of wet pavement and morning coffee. But beneath it all, there was something off. Something I wasn't supposed to notice. The people, they didn't look at me. Not one. Not even by accident. I walked down the street, through a crowd of strangers. And not a single person's gaze met mine. Like I wasn't even there. Panic gnawed at my ribs, but I forced my legs to keep moving. Forced myself to act like everything was fine. Until I saw her. A woman sitting on a bench near the corner. Staring straight at me. The first set of human eyes I had met all morning. I stopped. My throat dry. She didn't blink. Didn't move. Just watched. And then. She opened her mouth. Too wide. A silent scream of a gesture. And in a voice that didn't sound entirely her own, she whispered. They are taking you next. I ran. I don't know how far. How long. By the time I reached my house, my legs felt like lead, my chest burning from gasping breaths. I slammed the door behind me, locking it. Then I turned. And froze. There was something on my wall. A photograph. One I had never seen before. I stepped closer, my pulse a war drum in my skull. The picture showed me. Standing among a group of people I didn't recognize. No. Not people. Their faces were blurred. Smudged. Like someone had dragged their fingers across wet paint. I stared at it, heart pounding. I reached out, hesitated, then ripped the photo from the wall. And on the back, written in handwriting I didn't recognize, were 4 words. You were one of us. I stared at the photograph. My breath shallow. You were one of us. The words crawled under my skin, a parasite burrowing deep into the folds of my thoughts. Something about the picture ached. Like I had seen it before. Like I had been there before. I forced myself to examine it again, searching for anything familiar. My own face was clear, sharp, distinct, but the people around me remained smudged. Their features lost in a smear of distortion. Except. One of them wasn't completely blurred. A man, standing just behind me. His face was half-formed. As if the world had tried to erase him but hadn't finished the job. His mouth was slightly open. Mid-sentence. Like he had been trying to warn me. A deep, primal fear coiled around my ribs, squeezing. My pulse pounded in my ears. You were one of us. I wasn't just losing people. I was losing myself. That night, I avoided mirrors. It wasn't a conscious decision at first, I just found myself turning away from them. Avoiding the bathroom. Ignoring the reflection in my phone screen. Something about the idea of seeing myself felt wrong. Like I wouldn't like what I saw. But at some point, exhaustion won. I stumbled into the bathroom, gripping the sink. Water. I needed water. I turned on the faucet, let the cold stream run over my hands. Slowly, hesitantly, I looked up at the mirror. And froze. The reflection stared back at me. Same eyes. Same face. But something was missing. I didn't know what at first. Couldn't quite place it. Then it hit me. My reflection wasn't breathing. My chest rose and fell in short, uneven gasps. But the reflection? Still. Perfectly, eerily still. A scream climbed up my throat, but I swallowed it down. I did not move. And neither did it. We stood there, locked in an unnatural standoff. Then, slowly, too slowly, it tilted its head. But I hadn't moved. My stomach dropped. The reflection smiled. I stumbled backward, slamming into the door. My body was trembling. Every nerve screaming at me to run. The reflection's mouth opened, stretching far too wide, lips peeling back over teeth that weren't mine. And then, it spoke. Not out loud. Not in sound. Inside my head. You're not supposed to be here. The light flickered. And when it came back on, the mirror was empty. I was gone. I don't know how long I sat on the bathroom floor. Knees pulled to my chest, breath coming in short, broken bursts. I was losing pieces of myself. Not metaphorically. Not symbolically. Literally. I grabbed my phone. My fingers trembled as I typed. Me. What's happening to me? A pause. Too long. Then. Unknown number, you see them now. Me, who? Unknown number, the hollow ones. The word sent a wave of nausea rolling through me. I knew that name. I didn't know how. But I did. Something deep in my bones recognized it. I typed with shaking hands. Me, what do they want? A long silence. Then. Unknown number. To take back what you stole. My mind reeled. What I stole. I didn't steal anything. I wasn't part of this. I wasn't. Except I was. The photograph. The missing names. The familiar ache when I looked at the blurred faces. I had been here before. I had been one of them. And somehow, some way, I had escaped. But they had found me again. My phone vibrated. Another text. Unknown number, they are inside the house. A sharp, horrible silence fell over the room. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. My ears strained, listening. And then. A slow, deliberate knock at my bedroom door. Not the front door. My bedroom door. From inside the house. I turned my head slowly. The handle twisted. The door creaked open an inch. And in the sliver of darkness beyond, I saw them. Tall. Hollow. Featureless. They didn't move. Didn't lunge. Just watched. Waiting for me to remember. Waiting for me to become one of them again. I pressed myself against the wall, my breath ragged. My phone buzzed one last time. I looked down. Unknown number, don't let them take you back. I raised my eyes. The hollow ones smiled. And stepped inside. The hollow ones stepped forward. Their movements were slow, deliberate, not like predators. But like something reclaiming what was already theirs. I couldn't move. My body wouldn't move. I could only stare as their two long fingers curled around the edges of the doorframe. Their featureless faces shifting, distorting, like something struggling to take shape. One of them tilted its head. And then they spoke. Not in words. Not in sound. But in my mind. 1,000 voices. Layered on top of each other, familiar and strange all at once. Come back. A pressure built in my skull, like something pressing against the inside of my thoughts. Memories I didn't know I had started surfacing, fragmented, out of order. A place without time. A place without identity. A place where I had once belonged. I had been there before. I had been one of them. And I had escaped. I didn't know how. I didn't know why. But now, they had found me. And they weren't leaving without me. I squeezed my eyes shut. Think. There had to be a way out. I reached for my phone, fingers scrambling, desperate. The last message still burned on the screen. Don't let them take you back. I didn't understand. Why had I run? Why had I fought to leave? What had I stolen from them? I dug my nails into my palm, forcing my mind deeper into the fractured memories surfacing inside me. And then I remembered. I had been part of them. An empty thing, nameless and forgotten. Until I took a name. A stolen name. A stolen life. That was why I had escaped. That was how I had become me. I had ripped myself from their grasp, forged an identity from nothing, taken the place of someone who had once existed and made their life mine. The friends. The house. The job. The memories. None of it had ever belonged to me. I wasn't real. I was just something that had taken shape in a place where I didn't belong. And now, the hollow ones had come to correct the mistake. The room tilted. The walls buckled, bending inward like the house itself was being peeled away. I clutched my head, my vision blurring. The hollow ones stepped closer. Their presence pressing against my thoughts. Come back. I felt myself slipping. My body fading. Because I didn't belong here. This world had never been mine. I had stolen someone's place. And now, I had to choose. To return to the hollow place. Or to hold on to this stolen existence, knowing that I didn't deserve it. A thought cut through the static. A name is power. That was why I had been able to leave before. That was why they hadn't been able to take me back, until now. I had built myself from nothing, carved out an identity where one had never existed. I had given myself a name. And as long as I held on to it, they couldn't take me. My voice shook as I spoke. I am not yours. The hollow ones hesitated. I am not part of you. The house groaned. The air around me shuddered. And for the first time, something like uncertainty passed through them. I have a name, I whispered. And it's mine. I didn't know if it was true. Didn't know if my name had ever been real, if my life had ever truly belonged to me. But I believed it. And belief was enough. The hollow one's shapes began to blur, unraveling at the edges. I clenched my fists. You can't have me. And then they stepped back. Not defeated. Not gone. Just waiting. Because I would always be one of them. Because if I ever forgot, if I ever let go of my name, my life, myself, they would come again. And next time, I might not escape. The house was silent. The world still. But something felt thin. Like I was walking on a surface that could crack at any moment. I checked my phone. The messages from the unknown number were gone. No evidence they had ever existed. The photograph? Gone, too. And yet, I could still feel them. Lingering at the edges of my reality. Watching. Waiting. For a moment of weakness. For a crack in my identity. For me to forget. Because the hollow ones never truly leave. They just wait. Wait for someone to slip. Wait for someone to lose themselves. And when they do, they take them back. Weeks passed. I told myself it was over. That I was free. And then, one night, as I lay in bed, my phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. Have you forgotten yet? And from the darkness beyond my door, I heard a whisper. Knocking. Waiting. Calling me home.